Hello, and welcome back to Post Traumatic Revelations. I am your host, Afrah Caraballo. Today, we're looking at the concept of post traumatic freedom from that darkness that we can get lost in after trauma, freedom from that post traumatic prison that we tend to build to keep ourselves safe. A prison that's really made up of judgment, guilt, shame, fear, doubt, and resistance to the potential of growth and healing post traumatically. So, this concept of freedom sounds great, right? Like, who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want to be free? And even in that, this loaded question of, well, of course you want to be free, right? But even that's loaded and has its own little tinge of judgment, right? And we know that wherever there's judgment, there's a guilty party that's feeling some level of shame. It's a really nasty cycle, judgment, guilt, and shame. This cycle keeps us stuck and imprisoned. But back to freedom. So, what is freedom? What does it mean to be free? And what do I mean by post traumatic freedom? When we think about freedom, generally we're thinking about the ability to do or say whatever we want without anyone stopping us. But I want us to look a little closer at this concept of freedom because usually when we're talking about freedom, we're talking about something outside of ourselves, something outside of us that's holding us captive, holding us hostage, something or someone outside of us that's keeping us from doing something or achieving something or saying something. But what about that internal voice, the internal prison? What about those internal walls that constrain us and restrain us? What about our invisible barriers to freedom? In this episode, I want to invite you to explore with me the idea of the self induced prison, that prison that keeps us from being free, the post traumatic prison that, while designed to keep us safe, has actually imprisoned us. You see, after a traumatic experience, we can be so disoriented, so taken by surprise, so disconnected from ourselves that we aren't sure how or where to start in our healing process. Remember, right? Trauma is a wound, and a post traumatic event is any event that leaves us feeling terrified, horrified, helpless, and hopeless. It's an event that overwhelms our current ability to effectively cope and manage. In short, a traumatic event is a disgusting, horrible surprise. And post traumatically, we work tirelessly to make sure that we are never surprised in that way ever again. So we change. We change the way we walk, the way we talk, the way we drive, the way we sleep, the way we eat, the way we see the world, and the way we interact with ourselves and other people. We change the way we love after a breakup. We change the way we drive after a car crash. We even change the way we sit in a restaurant after certain traumas. We take these steps and make these choices all in an attempt to feel safe and in control again. No surprises. We don't want to leave anything to chance. Post traumatically, we live in this state of always be prepared, just in case. Our thoughts change from carefree exploration to hypervigilance. We go from thinking, hey, why not, to can't do this, can't do that. Remember what happened last time? Don't get caught off guard. No surprises. Post traumatically, we start putting limits on ourselves. We start creating boundaries around ourselves in an attempt to feel safe and in control. We start judging ourselves pretty harshly for having been too weak, too dumb, too stupid, too scared, too young, too small, too lazy, too unworthy. We start judging and punishing ourselves post traumatically for somehow letting the traumatic event happen or making the traumatic event happen. And these judgments are used as justification to build the walls of judgment, guilt, shame, fear, doubt, resistance to that healing, resistance to that growth that's possible. Over time, these negative thoughts and these feelings can create a pretty formidable prison. This may sound counterintuitive, right? Yet another judgment. But this prison, with all of its walls, doors, gates, and gatekeepers, was designed to protect. We start off trying to protect ourselves from being hurt again, to protect ourselves from outsiders, from would be offenders. But we often end up hurting ourselves or other people even more. And this, of course, can lead back to feeling that judgment, that guilt, that shame, and that inadvertently reinforces the walls of the prison. Now we're adding to it the justification to protect other people from us. A lot of times, post traumatically, we see ourselves as the monster, as tainted, as no good, as unworthy. And in this misguided attempt to be safe and keep other people safe, we create this prison and reinforce these walls. And by the way, one of the hallmarks of post traumatic stress disorder is isolation. So we withdraw and we build our post traumatic fortress of solitude. We have our post traumatic caves, post traumatic darkness, our fully staffed prison. All is well. No surprises. No one gets in, no one gets out without some serious inspection or scrutiny. But somehow we still don't feel quite right. There's still this uneasiness. There's something missing. What's missing? What's wrong? Why don't we feel safe? Turns out, while we were focused on safety, we neglected our need for freedom. See, as living beings, we need to feel safe, but we also need freedom, freedom to grow and expand. Otherwise, we're just existing, waiting to die. All of nature strives to be more. All of nature wants to expand and grow and express, and we're no different. So, how do we reconcile these needs? How do we reconcile this need for safety with this need for freedom and expansion? How do we balance that need? What does it take? What does it cost? We've all heard that freedom's not free, and I completely agree with that. Freedom is not free. It does cost. It costs courage and it costs effort. Simple enough, right? Let's just go out and get some courage and effort and be free. But how do we find this kind of courage? How do we find this currency when it's been lost, stolen, beaten out of us? How do we find the courage post traumatically? How do you find the courage after being terrified, horrified to the point of feeling helpless and hopeless? How do you get from solitary confinement to sovereign king or queen? Well, like everything else, it starts with a thought. Think about it. Everything you see, everything you hear, from your cell phone to your computer, the food you eat, the clothes you wear, this very podcast, everything started with a thought. So the thought of post traumatic freedom starts inside of you, in the chaos. There's a quiet space. In your post traumatic prison is the key. Every single door has a key. Your post traumatic prison was built one thought at a time, one judgment at a time. And your post traumatic freedom can be achieved by deconstructing those thoughts, one thought at a time. It's been a while, quite a while ago. I had this client, and she said something that stays with me to this day, and I want to share that with you. But I was working with her for a few months, and we were working um, to help her. She had nightmares. She had post traumatic stress disorder following a pretty violent attack. So we did the work, and she started coming in and feeling better and started hanging out with family and friends again. She even started dating again. And I was so impressed by her progress. And I know that healing is individual, right? Trauma is subjective. And so I'm always curious, what was it that flipped on the light for people? And so I asked her, what happened? What changed her? And she said this, and I'll never forget it. She said, well, I just went from being constantly afraid of getting hurt to realizing I could never really be hurt. Wow. What? I was so taken aback by this statement. And she wasn't particularly religious or anything like that. So I asked her, what do you mean by that? What does that mean? And we ended up going down this philosophical road that I could never have expected from her, given how we first met, her initial presentation to the office. But this is why I love my work so much. This is why I love what I do. I love being reminded and being a reminder of who we really are. We are free and sovereign beings, created in the image and likeness of our Creator. We are not what happened to us. We are not our traumas. We are not our wounds. We hold the keys to every single door in our prison. We are the prisoner. We are the warden. We are the king, and we are the queen. When you've had the wind knocked out of you, it's easy to forget. And difficulty remembering, difficulty concentrating, difficulty learning, these are all characteristics of having post traumatic stress disorder. Intrusive images and thoughts can make it pretty hard to remember who you really are. Trauma can derail us, distract us, detach us. And this post traumatic disordered thinking is like mortar that holds the walls together, it holds the bricks of judgment, guilt, and shame together. So I invite you to remember who you really are under the loud noise, the chaos. There is a quiet, untouchable place that is yours. And from there, we can find clarity. From there, we can see the smallest inklings of light. And so I propose post traumatic stress order because in the chaos, in the disorder, are the keys to healing and freedom. No, we can't undo what's been done. We can't unstab, unshoot, uncrash, unbomb, unrape, but we can heal. We can control our thoughts. We can organize our thoughts. We can train our minds and our way of thinking. We can negotiate with the gatekeepers that we installed to protect us, to defend us. We can choose to judge less and forgive more. We can catch ourselves when we start to think about everything we've done wrong and start noticing more often when we do get it right. The courage to heal, the courage to have post traumatic freedom starts with one thought at a time. A thought that says, what if? Just try one more time. Just see what can happen. Freedom is on the other side of the wall. Freedom is just outside the prison. And if you have multiple traumas, there may be multiple walls, multiple doors, and multiple gatekeepers. So I am not in any way suggesting this is a one and done. I'm not suggesting that this is an easy process. I am by no means minimizing or trivializing the effects of post traumatic stress, depression, anxiety, bipolar, these disorders that happen when we've been shaken and derailed. What I am saying is freedom post traumatically is possible with our permission, with our courage, with our effort. Love, hope, and healing is available. I am pleasantly surprised every day by our capacity to heal, our capacity to heal ourselves. And given a real chance, we do heal. Not only do we heal, but we reach out to help other people do the same. And I've noticed that healing leads to freedom, and freedom leads to growth, and growth leads to wealth, and wealth leads to generosity. So I want to invite you to explore your post traumatic prison, your post traumatic darkness, your post traumatic cave. I am inviting you to explore your post traumatic prison for possible exits. I want to invite you to notice where the judgmental thoughts are, where the guilt is, where the shame is, how they're connected. I want to invite you to notice the layout of your post traumatic prison. And I'm inviting you to get an idea of how big it is, how deep it is, how dark it is, how scary your post traumatic prison is. And then start planning your escape. This prison wasn't built overnight, and this prison won't be destroyed overnight. And you may not even want to destroy the prison. Maybe you just want to modify it. Maybe the idea of complete freedom is scary, overwhelming, or intimidating because, well, with freedom comes responsibility. And if we're not sure how to control ourselves, if we're not sure how to connect and engage, then maybe we want to modify and take steps toward that ultimate freedom, but not just burn it down, right? So, inviting you to look at your post traumatic prison, your post traumatic darkness, and notice where steps toward lenience, toward less rigid, less strict rules, fewer limitations, working our way to freedom, that maybe we don't necessarily need solitary confinement. Maybe we don't necessarily need a maximum security prison. Maybe we don't need complete isolation, but limited engagements, planned engagements, right? Maybe we incorporate visitations. But my point is post-traumatic freedom is possible. And the cost is permission, courage, and effort. So this is an invitation, not a mandate. You are the driver of your bus. You are the warden of your prison, the king or queen of your domain. I am just an honored guide and reminder. And I'm here to remind you that love, hope, healing, and freedom post traumatically is possible. And I want to thank you again for your time and your permission. Until next time, be well.